Alrighty then. So we're gonna wait a few minutes to see if anybody else shows up. Hopefully everybody had a had a good day today. La dee dee da dee da, la dee dee da dee da, la dee dee da dee da, la dee dee da dee da. When you're home, you're home. La dee dee da dee. Gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. Find adventure that's beyond compare. They are the gummy bears. They are the gummy bears. Courageous and caring, faithful and friendly, with stories to share. All through the forest. Hey, Toys, how you doing, man? As I said, just waiting for more people to show up. Hopefully, you had a good day today. As always, of course, I do appreciate any and all likes and shares. Helps get more friendly people in here, as well as and I hope, as I said, you had a good day today. And I do appreciate. I saw that you did like, so I can share. So thank you for that. Um, I'm just, as I said, just waiting to give some more people. See if we can get some more people in here. Don't mind me. I'll be lurking. I've got a slip disc, so I need the link. Okay. Well, at least you're acknowledging that you're here, so I'm glad for that. I can understand if you got to lie down, but at least you're, as long as you're listening in. Of course, if you have anything you want to comment on, you're more than welcome to when you can. So, but I do thank you for being here. Yeah, so hopefully everything else is going all right with you and your family at least. Yeah, slip disc probably isn't a good thing, but gummy bears bouncing here and there and everywhere. Find adventure that's beyond compare. They are the gummy bears. They are the gummy bears. Anyways. Transformers, robots in disguise. Autobots rage their battle to destroy the evil forces of the Decepticons. Transformers. Let's see. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. I'm strong to the finish 'cause I eat my spinach. I'm Popeye the Sailor Man. Let's see now. All right, so we're coming up on 5 minutes here. Let's see now. Surfing on a sound wave, swinging through the stars. Take a left at human testing. Take a second right past Mars on the magic school bus. Navigator Nos, come on the magic school bus. Flintstones, meet the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba do time. From the town of Bedrock, there's a place right out of history. That's right, with the family down the street. Rudolph, courtesy of Frizzle Heap. When you're with the Flintstones, have a yabba dabba do time. A dabba do time. We'll have a gay old time. And by the way, of course, when they said gay old time, they actually meant happy, not not what we commonly think of today. But anyways, let's see. Let's see now. All right, so 7 minutes. So we're at the 7 minute mark. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start to get a little started here. So first off, we do have 5 stories tonight, all of them comics related. Among them, including DC Comics race swapping their multiverse Captain America homage, American Crusader. Chuck Dixon is reportedly not happy with how DC and these comic book companies are, what they're doing to American icons like Superman and Captain America to fit modern times as a crime. We also have some RPG news, from Comic Rise, as some independent RPGs are making more money than Dungeons and Dragons. And we have a couple stories regarding Mike Barron. One, Mike Barron's take on some of the woke stuff, but um, also, he's also been reported to be getting ready to use the proceeds from his latest comic to help police and their families. So, as I said, we got 5 stories, all comics related. 4 of them are from Bounding into Comics, and the other one's from Critical Blast. So, yes, and also, let's also not forget that this Friday, of course, will be our next historical comic retrospect. We'll be starting our coverage of September 1938. We'll be looking at the comics that went on sale from DC, and of course, Action Toys channel, who happens to be here with me now, who's in the chat now, will be filling in for Batgoat, as Batgoat's still on his vacation. So, we'll be looking at the debut of the Crimson Avenger from Detective Comics Volume 1, Number 20. We'll be looking at some other stories as well. So hopefully you'll all be here for that. So anyways, we're coming right up on 10 minutes. So I think I'm going to go ahead and start getting into the articles now. Now that we've kind of gone through all that. All right, so let's get this underway. All right, so here's the first story we're going to be looking at tonight. Ultimate Rampage. You got a one creature in there that looks like Beast from Marvel Comics. Upper right hand corner there. Let's see. Retaliators Rampage. DC Comics race swaps multiverse Captain America homage American Crusader. Article by Spencer McCulley published earlier today. So let's get into this. DC Comics has set a record time race swapping as just 1 month after his last appearance as a white man. The publisher's Captain America homage, American Crusader, has been replaced by an apparent black successor. Dr. Multiverse? What? Source Justice League Incarnate, Volume 1, Number 1, The World Outside Your Window. Words by Joshua Williamson and Dennis Culver. Art by Brandon Peterson, Andre Bresson, and Tom Erinick. And Hi-Fi Design. Okay. First introduced by Grant Morrison in this aptly titled Guide to DC's 52 Earth Multiverse. The Multiversity guidebook, American Crusader, hails from the Marvel inspired Earth 8 world, where great power comes with great responsibility, and heroes often pay a high price for their dedication to justice. An obvious tribute to Captain America, American Crusader was originally conceived as a white man clad in an outfit reminiscent of those worn by the Knights Templar and wielding a hard light shield. Earth 8 here, so. Multiversity Guidebook, Volume 1, Number 1, Maps and Legends. DC Comics, words by Grant Morrison, art by Brian Hitch and Alex Sinclair. Making his first full appearance since his introduction in the November 30th issue of Justice League Incarnate, Volume 1, Number 1, American Crusader is sadly seen falling in battle to the Earth 8 version of Thanos, Tartarus. Cradling the dead hero in his arms as Batman approaches to offer medical assistance, Earth 8's version of the Falcon pushes him away, confirming he's dead now, quote unquote, he's dead now, you bleep. And here's another panel from Justice League Incarnate, Volume 1, Number 1. So. However, the character would undergo a drastic change, a la Sam Wilson's run as a Star Spangled Avenger just 1 month later. In January 4th, Suicide Squad, Volume 7, Number 11, an apparent new version of American Crusader debuts when the Retaliators respond to the sudden appearance of the Suicide Squad inside of a bank vault on Earth 8, wielding a similar hard light shield and Knights Templar themed costume to his predecessor, but possessing a drastically darker skin tone. This is really kind of becoming commonplace for these guys, isn't it? Let's kill off the white guy so we can put in somebody, a person of color in there. Yeah, that should sell you some books. Oh wait, no, it hasn't been selling you books. Hmm. Right. Though the race swapping of American Crusader appears to be intentional, there's also a chance that the discrepancy in his appearance is the result of an editorial failure. This theory is based on the fact that both Machine Head, albeit in green armor, and Behemoth appear alongside the Retaliators in battle against the Suicide Squad, despite the fact they were previously killed rather explicitly, in fact, by Tartarus and Darkseid respectively. Your every ally falls before the mighty Tartarus. But this is set of panels from Justice League Incarnate, Volume 1, Number 1, The World Outside Your Window. While it's possible that there may be an in universe explanation forthcoming, such as the mantles of American Crusader, Machine Head, and Behemoth being taken on by other individuals in the wake of their deaths, as of writing, there has been no indication in any DC book that such a passing of the torch has occurred. In the case of American Crusader, the man underneath the mask may be the Silver Falcon, seen above cradling the American Crusader's body. However, due to stylistic differences in coloring, it's unclear if DC's version of the Falcon is also black or just tanned skin. So let's see. Let's go back up here. See if we can find that. I guess not. Alright, so anyways. Oh, and there's Darkseid, of course, with it was shooting off his Omega beams. And his Omega beams can just kind of go. They don't go in a straight line. They go zip, zip, zip. Oh boy. What do you make of DC's apparent race swap of American Crusader? Let us know your thoughts on social media. Well, it's par. It just seems like it's par for the course for them. Just seems like it's par for the course for them. It's just another gimmick they're doing to placate, the Twidiots. It would seem like. All right, so getting ready now to move on to the next article, unless of course, Toys, maybe you have something you'd like to say on this. If not, we'll probably get ready to move on. All right. Just check something here. All right, so all right. All right, so we're gonna move on to get ready to move on to the next story here. Then Chuck Dixon says changing American icons like Superman and Captain America to fit modern times is a crime. Article by J.B. Augustine published earlier today. Recently, we showed you what Superman co creator Jerry Siegel thought of his character standing for American Way and why he approved of that. Yes, we saw that article yesterday, in fact. Um, his words come from a 40-year-old interview. So, let's see, a 40-year-old interview, which would have meant that would have been back in 1981, 82, around there. But have new resonance today when DC Comics is changing and misusing the Man of Steel. I guess this is from the Man of Steel movie from Warner Brother Pictures. Well, another writer who knows a thing or two about the publisher and their characters went into further detail as to why Superman is such a pure American hero who would never turn his back on those principles. In episode 83 of his Q&A series, writer Chuck Dixon devoted an entire video to the essence of comics' first superhero and one of the USA's biggest icons, and what his origins have to do with the experiences of Jewish American creators in the 1920s and during World War II. Yeah, that is a good point. Everybody seems to forget that, you know, Superman was initially created by a couple of Jewish kids, you know, who understood, what it's like, Dixon observed that those times weren't ideal for Jewish people in Europe or America. Though life in the United States was better and freer compared to Germany at the time, young first generation Jews may have lived in cramped conditions with no heat in New York, for example, but they still had cohesion and relative safety within their community. In other words, they weren't being beat up. They weren't being beat up as much or being carted off in the middle of the night or anything like that. They still lived in a country, however, that didn't fully accept them. Millions of people identified with the KKK, the Ku Klux Klan, who marched through Washington with impunity, and Jews were locked out of many industries and trades because of actual systemic prejudice. One category of crafts open to them vocationally was the arts, and particularly entertainment, films, and print media. Jewish immigrants and Jewish Americans who came from nothing could make a living producing movies and writing comics in which they often tapped into quote unquote what made America tick. This is from the variant cover for Superman Red and Blue, but in this case by the artist John Paul Leon. They made these movies and crafted these stories largely as outsiders to the American experience. Despite not being welcome in society, they were fascinated with American ideals and the American dream. The fact that you could, lift yourself up out of your circumstances and not rely on the government or anything like that. This history and these fascinations fed the narrative of early Superman comics. Dixon noted, like Siegel and Joe Shuster, their character was an outsider who loved his home country, which people responded to en masse when Action Comics sold out due to demand too voracious for the supply chain. Hence their rapid growth, you know, in the early days. And Superman getting his own quarterly feature book like a year after he made his debut, and the story behind Captain America's creation is quite similar. Like Superman, Cap is a righteous crusader created by two Jewish creators in Jack Kirby and Joe Simon that tackled the problems of the day, even if he couldn't do so for real. He is at Marvel and Superman is DC, but they both fought for the powerless. Captain America 29. Dixon explained the big difference between the two was Cap was more directly involved in the war and was boldly seen punching Hitler in the face on the cover of an issue. Although that's true to a point, Superman would intervene in global politics occasionally. Now, granted, one of the other things, part of the reason why many heroes could not operate over in Europe at the time, particularly those, where magic was the basis of their powers. Now, granted, Superman was not a magical hero; he was susceptible to magic. Was that Adolf Hitler on that Earth had gained control of the Spear of Destiny. Spear of Destiny was that world's version of the Centurion spear, that was used to pierce Jesus Christ's side, and you saw the water come out, and therefore it had supernatural abilities that any metahuman that entered within a particular range of the spear came under control of whoever um, whoever the whoever was in control of the Spear of Destiny. Um, in a special short story printed in Look magazine in 1940, the Man of Steel really fought for truth and the American way, and a better tomorrow. When you think about it, by meting out justice on Hitler and Stalin, single-handedly winning the war, he grabs the dictators and drops them off in Geneva to stand trial. So this was from a story that was done for Look magazine back in 1940. Another story that got the attention of federal authorities saw Superman witness the destructive power of the A-bomb before the weapon was ever public knowledge. Here's the cover of Captain America title here. Captain America #1 from Jack Kirby, and you see right there his shield was more designed more like a typical shield, not like the more domed or circular shield that we're all used to seeing. This is his design for a shield. There was more of a traditional style of a shield. All right. Nevertheless, Cap being the war hero and Superman the friendly neighborhood savior and crime buster remained the distinction between the two. Where they came together was their pride in America, and Dixon bookends the beginning and the end of his discussion by clarifying why their love of the country is key to who they are. As he states, Superman has seen and heard the best and worst of mankind, especially all their ideals and philosophy, while simply floating above the planet. which is true because remember he's got super hearing. Um, let's see. All right, when he's heard it all and settled on the American way, the idea he'd abandon that that he'd abandon that for something inferior to find something better doesn't make sense. That's, I guess this panel is from the Look magazine um, story from 1940. Same is true for Captain America, who has seen the horrors of war firsthand and wouldn't be lectured about the nature of it by someone younger who's never served on a front line, but realistically would do the lecturing. That's too much of a change for Dixon, who says in closing, altering these quote unquote indelible American icons to fit the times, quote, is a crime, unquote, when, quote, their values are timeless, unquote. Is Superman number 31. By this time, it had become a monthly feature, covered by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, DC Comics. Do you agree with Dixon, and did you find the deep dive into Captain America and Superman interesting? Comment. Well, I agree with him. Yeah, they had become symbols, and for people to make them. That's part of the reason why they did it. That's part of the reason I believe that some of these woke people actually did it, because to turn these major icons against America helps to further their message that, or at least the message they want to send, the narrative they want to send, that America isn't as good as it actually is. These are traitorous individuals who would do this. Um, so, anyways, well, yeah. All right, so let's see. So now it's time to move on to the next story, of course. Before I do that, just gonna drop over to Facebook for a couple quickies. Come on now, come on now, come on now, come on now. All right, so alrighty then. So let's get ready to move on to the next article here. All right, so here we go. As Dungeons and Dragons goes woke, superhero RPG alternative, in smaller quotes, Ascendant, tops best-selling charts at Drive-Thru RPG. Article by John F. Trent, published earlier today in the comic books, tabletop games, and RPG section here. So let's get into this one. Newly released superhero RPG, Ascendant, is topping the best-selling charts at popular RPG website Drive-Thru RPG. So what they're saying here is that this one Ascendant, and look at that. Oh, no, I almost have to say when I look at this, it's almost like they kind of combined Superman and Captain America. Now I know that DC and Marvel did do that with Tangent Comics as well with Super Soldier, I believe, way back when. So, superpowered role-playing game of infinite possibilities. Ascendant's rise to the top of the sales charts comes as both Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder find themselves taken over by political fanatics. That has resulted in radical changes to the game's characters and lore. Of course, radicals, and we saw the article, and we saw the article about young Ripa's, aka young Eric July, commentary on it yesterday. According to a press release, the game, which was released on Drive-Thru RPG on December 14th, took over the top sales charts, hitting the top spot for small press, print, and other system. In fact, the game is still number one for print, other systems, and small press. So this non-woke RPG is kicking the bejubies out of some of these woke BSers. The game would hit number 2 overall. It has since dropped to number 3 behind One Ring Core Rules and Root, the role-playing game bundle. The success at Drive-Thru RPG comes after a successful crowdfunding campaign on Kickstarter, where it was backed by nearly 500 people to the tune of $32,435. If you are wondering what Ascendant is, it is described in a press release as a superpowered role-playing game of infinite possibilities, unquote, as we saw earlier in the frame that we saw earlier there. If you are okay, we already read that part. Okay, quote: Ascendant delivers this high-powered comic book action in an all-new universe of iconic superheroes. Unquote. Press release adds, quote: The Ascendant Universe is a new comic book universe, both literally and figuratively, one where superpowers are just emerging right now in the present day. So I think it's almost like it almost sounds like they're taking the like Earth Prime or Earth Real idea from DC. Back of course after Crisis on Infinite Earths and all that. Sure. In their Kickstarter, they specifically described their role playing system. Quote: Ascendant strives to be neither a descriptor based nor effect based game. It is rather a physics based game. The game mechanics are intended to be the physics engine of the game world, unquote. Quote, powers have both descriptors and effects. Some effects are precluded by the logic of the descriptor, and some descriptors inevitably entail certain effects. The mechanics are elaborate and detailed, as in an effect based game, but they are also broad and universalized, in parentheses, as in a descriptor based game, unparenthesed. Um, Players are expected and encouraged to use their powers in whatever manner makes sense within the physics of a comic book world, but not in ways that don't make sense. Unquote. Autark explained. They further added, quote, if a descriptor based system aims to let players experience a comic book story, and an effect based system aims to let players play a superhero game, our physics based system aims to let players simulate a comic book world. To do so, we have created logarithmic chart based universal mechanics, a style of design that has not been widely used in the last 2 decades, but which will be instantly familiar to fans of classic Phaser Rip and Megs RPGs from the 1980s. I guess what they might be talking about, maybe stuff like Castlevania and Legend of Zelda, I would guess. Send it, codename Aurora, real name Brittany Sinclair, character points 940, power limit 28, challenge rating 500, health 320, health recovery 64, termination 320, termination recovery 64, initiative 10, passive spotting 12, passive listening 10, height, weight, all that. So it's Ascendant. The 496 page standalone rulebook includes elegant game mechanics that swiftly simulate the physics of a comic book world using easy to reference real life benchmarks, color coded challenge action resolution tables that resolve complex actions with super speed. Infinitely scalable system lets you play heroes of any power level, from Street Fighters to Living Gods, and replicate virtually any character from your favorite anime, comic, manga, or movies. Oh, okay. So replicates virtually. Wow. So could you imagine that? Could you imagine, let's say, bringing together somebody like, maybe bringing together like maybe Yusuke Urameshi and maybe bringing together Yusuke Urameshi and maybe Terry McGinnis Batman. That might be an interesting deal to look at. Let's see, countless powers, all customizable, with the easy to use system of modifier tags that lets you match your powers specifics to your character concept. So it sounds a little bit like they're saying you can even create your own heroes there too. Can maybe hodgepodge characters you already know, or mix and match, or even create your very own original hero. Sounds a little bit like, I would think. Comprehensive detective mechanics for investigating crimes, interviewing witnesses, and finding clues. Detailed options for super geniuses to create inventions, cure diseases, and even bring their outlandish devices into mass production, which was a common theme even back in the 40s. I can tell you that much. Um, Extensive rules for responding to emergencies such as asteroid strikes, avalanches, disease outbreaks, earthquakes, fires, nuclear disasters, tornadoes, tsunamis, and volcanoes. A huge catalog of pre built characters and objects, including major military vehicles such as aircraft carriers, attack submarines, and ballistic missiles. A dynamic mission generation system to help you create challenges for your heroes. An optional campaign setting with ready to use heroes, villains, and organizations. Spectacular artwork by industry leading pencilers, inkers, colorists. So sounds like they're really going all out with this RPG. There's something here. That girl looks a little bit like, I think, there's a Marvel superhero I'm thinking of. I don't know if her name's like Raven or Night Raven or something like that. Ascendant Star Spangled Squadron. The source on that. Let me see if we got any new people in here yet, or and we're at the 47. We're coming up on 48 minutes there. All right. Anyways, let me just check something here. All right. I'll just continue on then. And Ben. All right. As noted above, Ascendant is not just a new RPG rulebook, but there are also plans to expand RPG into a line of comics and graphic novels. In fact, a 96-page graphic novel featuring artwork by Mel Joy San Juan, J. David Ramos, Will Conrad, Jinky Coronado, Rovel Yumul, titled Ascendant Star Spangled Squadron, is in the works and is expected to arrive on crowdfunding site Indiegogo. Before I finish up the article here, I'm going to go off camera for a quick sec. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back now, so let's finish up this article here real quick. What do you make of Ascendant's success on Drive Through RPG? Do you plan on checking out the new comic book universe? So, all right, so we've gotten through just over halfway through we basically got through 3 of the 5 stories. So, Toyd, I don't know if you're the one who's still in here or if it's somebody else, but um, what do you guys think of the stories that we've covered so far? You guys have any comments you want to make on them? Um, as we're coming up on 52 minutes here. Have anything you'd like to add to the commentary here thus far? Laugh out loud, not me. Okay. Well, I hope you're at least enjoying the stories, enjoying me reading them off and giving my commentary. Um, but anyways, I'll move along then. We have one more story from Bounding into Comics, and um, we all have a story from Critical Blast as well. And these last 2 stories are both going to revolve around writer Mike Barron, who, of course, right now has a book out, The Thin Blue Line, that I know RJ has covered, and I think a few others, Ethan Van Sciver, Pops, have all kind of talked about. So let's get into this article then. Mike Barron, I think, has some similar viewpoints as Chuck Dixon on some of let's see what he has to say. So, prolific Punisher writer Mike Barron blasts Marvel's new direction with the character as asinine. So, this is more in relation to the character he was involved with the Punisher. But I guess he's not a big fan of what they're doing with the Punisher now, calling it asinine. Article by John F. Trent, published earlier today. Former The Punisher writer Mike Barron, who introduced the Punisher ally Microchip with Klaus Johnson, blasted Marvel's new direction that sees him become the leader of the Hand. Now, I think what they're talking about here, of course, and I know that I think Yellow Flash might have talked a little bit about this too, how they turned him from a gun-toting vigilante to a ninja. So there's, of course, the iconic skull on his T-shirt, Punisher #1. Announced back in December, Jason Aaron, alongside artists Jesus Saiz and Paul Seta, will launch a new 13-issue Punisher series that will be told in 2 parts. One taking on Castle's present day, and the other depicting Castle's past through flashbacks. Marvel described the series, stating, quote, as the Punisher, Frank Castle has become the most accomplished killer the world has ever seen. And I remember how it was depicted on Spider-Man the Animated Series, how he had a lot of, he was very similar to Batman in that he just had a bunch of gadgets, guns and weaponry. So, excuse me a moment. I'll be right back. All right. So, anyways, let's get back to this. Let me just make sure that I'm back on camera and unmuted. Yep, there we go. I know there is a slight delay there. All right. After a shocking secret pushes him to become the warlord of the Hand, he now serves the Beast, a role he's been fated to fulfill, unquote. They add, quote, tragedy, war, and rage come together as he takes up his sword and his new armor with the most notorious clan of assassins in the Marvel Universe. Will it mean an end for the Punisher or a whole new bloody beginning? Unquote. So here's Punisher number one. Aaron also stated, quote, after writing The Punisher over the years, I've always been fascinated by the character Frank Castle. Um, but what moments made him the Punisher even before that fateful day in the park, and how far will he go to win the war that has consumed his life? Spoiler, as far as it damn well takes. Unquote. I mean, the Punisher here almost seems to have the same kind of just very narrow focus that Batman does when it comes to this. Quote, this story is the destined next step in the dark and tragic evolution of Frank Castle. From troubled kid to heroic soldier to revenge driven vigilante to the duty anointed king of killers. Believe me when I say I am as excited about this story as anything I've ever written for Marvel. Unquote, he asserted. And of course, what they did to his iconic skull on his shirt, their armor, again, a lot of people have had issues with. Punisher number one, 2022, Marvel Comics, art by Jesus Saez. Speaking to Bounding into Comics, Barron describes the new direction as quote unquote asinine. He adds quote, the Punisher functions best as a loner in the real world, without secret societies, superheroes, science fiction, fifth dimensions, or robots, unquote. As for the change in Punisher's logo, Barron says, and the logo, why mess with success? Quote unquote. Because Marvel's upset that the right has started using the a lot of people at Marvel there are upset that the right has started using that logo. That's why. Anyway, excuse me one more time. I'm sorry. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Anyways, continuing on here, let's see. Barron would also address Jerry Conway's claim that the iconic Punisher logo is a symbol of quote unquote lawless police oppression. He told Bounding in the comics, quote, I don't know why he would say that. Frank stands for justice, unquote. He elaborated, quote, of course he delivers justice outside the law, but at least during the 80s and 90s, when Chuck and I were writing him, he only punished the guilty, unquote. So, yeah. Again, due to the fact that you have a lot of, treasonous, traitorous, anti-American jerk-offs at Marvel and at DC at this point. We have seen the results of the defund the police movement. Crime has skyrocketed in every blue city that has defunded the police, unquote, Barron asserted, which is true. And I know that Mike Barron is a proponent of the police. His latest comic, Thin Blue Line. Um, so, um, let's see. Quote, cops and military who adopt the Punisher symbol do so because they understand it means standing up for those who can't stand up for themselves, unquote. Aaron would also tell Bounding in the comics what is at the core of the Punisher's character and what drives him. He explained, quote, Frank is an obsessed, guilt-ridden Catholic. He holds himself responsible for the death of his family, but he's not so self-absorbed to wallow in guilt for the rest of his life, unquote. Now, granted, the Punisher, you can draw some comparisons between him and Batman here. So again, I'm sorry, I gotta go off camera. Oh, counters acting up. Yeah, going back and forth between 1 and 2. um, yeah, I saw that. I've been seeing that. I just haven't been paying as much attention to it. I've just been going through the stories. And I'll be right back again. Um, it might take a while for the crew to get back into the swing of. Well, I hope so. I know Woody was here the Monday. Um, let's see, and then Backgoat we know won't be back for a little over a week and a half here. he'll be back. He wasn't going to be due back until the third week of January here. So, and let's see, and I did actually comment on Leto's video today about letting him know that I'm back to streaming again. So hopefully we'll start getting some people in here soon. But yeah, that's far for tonight. Anyways, it's just been you and me. So remember, we had like 7 people here on Monday and 4 last night. So but we know usually Hump Day is kind of the time when it does go down, unfortunately. So hopefully, though, we'll get people here soon. All right, so let's continue on with the article here. Um, Quote, he takes action to ensure what happened to him won't happen to others, similar again to Batman. Once he gets started, he realizes, why stop there? Society is rife with criminals who escape punishment. He sees it almost as a holy calling, and every week he goes to Mass when he can, and he takes confession, unquote. He elaborated. And I guess here's where they're showing that happening. When asked what Frank confesses at the sacrament of penance, Barron relayed, quote, he confesses to killing people. There's a lot of Old Testament in him, both thou shalt not kill and an eye for an eye, unquote. In the Catholic faith, the sacrament of penance requires one to show contrition or the expression of sorrow for sin. Contrition is defined by the Council of Trent, and I think that's supposed to be as, not is, as, quote, heartfelt sorrow and aversion for the sin committed, along with the intention of sinning no more, unquote. Yeah, the only problem is that's kind of hard in the line of work he is so chosen, and in the methodology he is so chosen. Um, yeah. Given this definition, Bounding in the comments asked if Castle is truly sorrowful for his actions and if he believes in the firm purpose of amendment. Barron answered, quote, he would like to, but he can't. This is Frank's curse, that he knows he can never stop, and prays the Lord will have mercy on him anyway, unquote. Finally, Barron told Bounding in the comics that he would do what he would do if he was given the chance to write the Punisher again. Quote, I would continue to write him as I did during the first 3 years as a straight crime comic, unquote. He stated, quote, we all know where the Punisher would be right now. On the southern border, dealing with coyotes, snakeheads, terrorists, and child molesters, pouring across the giant invitation mat laid out by the present administration, unquote. Aaron continued, quote, I have always wanted to send him after crooked politicians as well. Can you imagine the fury that would ignite? Can you imagine criminals patterned after members of the current administration or people who have been in Congress for like 30 years and have only managed to line their own pockets? unquote. I mean, could you imagine Frank Castle going after somebody like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris or Dr. Fauci or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi or the Squad or Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren or Merrick Garland or Gavin Newsom or Troy Evers or Gretchen Whitmer or Lori Lightfoot, all those lovable liberals, right? Ha 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 ha. Huh. Quote, well, I can, and I'm working on a new title with Jerry Kitzel that will do exactly that, unquote. He continued. Whoa. The Punisher Holy War. It looks like while Jerry Conway is busy trying to reclaim the Punisher's logo, and Marvel is abandoning the character's core nature, Mike Barron is creating a character in the vein of the Punisher to tell thrilling crime stories just like he did back in the 80s when he was writing The Punisher for Marvel Comics. What do you make of Barron's comments about The Punisher? Are you interested in this story? He's working with Gary Kitzel. Sounds kind of interesting. I'd like to see RJ bring him on to promote that comic. Um, that would be very interesting to see. Um, with that, of course, we got one more main article to do. We're at hour 14, so it looks like we're making good time here. Making some good time here. So we got one more main article to do. So, and it's going to be this one, and it's going to be another Mike Barron themed article here. We just we just heard his comments on what they're doing to the Punisher and what he's doing in response. So now, as everybody knows, as some of you might be aware, Mike Barron has recently been working on a comic called The Thin Blue Line, which is, of course, a comic that is showing, you know, trials and tribulations of a urban police department. So here you go. Marvel's The Punisher writer giving proceeds from new comic to police and their families. Um, and from I guess submitted by anonymous on today's date 17:30, which would be 5:30 p.m. So all right, so let's there we go. Thin blue line. Let's get into this one. Delighted by outpouring police support, Eisner winner Mike Barron launches second campaign on Kickstarter. All right, so let's get into this a bit. After quickly raising more funding than needed to self-publish his police-focused graphic novel, The Thin Blue Line, Eisner-winning writer Mike Barron and his creative team are moving the project to Kickstarter today to give others a chance to become a backer and get involved in supporting law enforcement in the USA. In the US. Among comic book readers, Mike Baron is best known for writing Star Wars, The Flash, Nexus, and The Punisher. And we were, of course, just talking about that in the previous news story we were looking at for Marvel Comics. But this graphic novel may turn out to be one of the only comics he's ever written to not be available at comic book shops, primarily because every publisher Mike reached out to said that making street cops the hero didn't align with their business model. In other words, translation there, a lot of these comic shop owners are afraid of the backlash they would get from this book, and particularly in more urban areas where there's a big loud cry, defund the police. Thankfully, Barron's readers don't share those concerns. In fact, the response was tremendous. Quote, I was shocked at how easily we beat our modest crowdfunding goal, unquote. Campaign manager Chris Braley says, quote, Mike's fans and the law enforcement community really came out in force on Indiegogo. So today we're expanding the campaign to Kickstarter for 30 days. Give anyone just learning about Thin Blue Line a chance to own a first printing of what's destined to be a rare comic book, unquote. Thin Blue Line tells the story of two law enforcement officers assigned to guard the mayor and amid riots that begin over a police shooting. Quote, it's not polemic and definitely isn't a cop recruitment book, unquote, Mike Barron says. Quote, it's just a thrilling action drama similar in many ways to elements my fans may recall from 5 years I wrote Punisher, which were grittier and more realistic than most mainstream superhero comics, unquote. The book's penciler, Joseph Arnold, is a full time police officer, which lends authenticity to the story. Arnold had always hoped to work with Barron, but had very personal reasons for wanting to illustrate Thin Blue Line. I was eager to show another side of policing, quote unquote, Arnold says. Quote, the story emphasizes family interpersonal dynamics and shows police officers from many different backgrounds. I hope it has a positive impact on policing. I put my heart into every page, unquote. The book is complete and is on schedule to go to print in February. After the Kickstarter campaign ends, the team has a record of successful campaigns and are anxious to get this into readers' hands. Quote, we're just thankful for the support Thin Blue Line is getting, unquote, Braley says. Quote, moving to Kickstarter means anyone who wants to get in on a limited print run and support police can do so, unquote. Launching on Kickstarter is intended to expand the project's reach to another unique community of comic fans. As a bonus, the Kickstarter campaign offers a few Kickstarter exclusive perks, including a signed hardcover artist edition. A portion of the profits from Thin Blue Line is being donated to three police related programs important to the team and relevant to the story. The campaign also hopes to bring attention to National Law Enforcement Appreciation Day, taking place on January 9th, 2022, So that would be, let's see, today's the 5th, so Friday's 7th, so that'd be this Sunday. Visit thinbluelinecomics.com to learn more for interviews or media. There's Chris Braley and his um, contact information. So more by this anonymous author. Okay, RJ. Anyways, all right. So there we go. So that's the end of all the main stories tonight. Hope everybody enjoyed them. Let's see. We're actually at an hour and 22, so we're coming up pretty quickly here on the hour and a half mark. Again, a quick reminder: this Friday, of course, we will be starting our September 1938 coverage of our historical comic retrospect, looking back at that time to comics that went on sale from DC, including the debut of the Crimson Avenger. Toys, who's here with me right now, of course, will be filling in for Batgoat this week. So with that, probably is a good time to start wrapping up here. Let me just on myself a few things here. Okay. So now I shall ask the typical question I do when we get close to the end of our show. Today, is everybody ready for this day in each history? As today is, of course, Wednesday, January 5th, 2022. So I ask again, are you ready for this day in each history? As we prepare to close things up. Excuse me for just one moment. I'll be right back. And wait for you. All right. So, anyways, today being Wednesday, January 5th, 2022, let's go ahead and take a look back at this day in each history. So, here we go. So, of course, the first stop we're going to we're going to head back 60 years ago today, as on this date, 60 years ago today, Dory Dixon would defeat Jack Dalton for the NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship in Houston, Texas. So on this date in 1962, 60 years ago today, Dory Dixon would defeat Jack Dalton for the NWA Texas Heavyweight Championship. So Dory Dixon was a longtime star in the southwestern part of the United States, particularly in Texas. So, with that, we'll now get ready to move on to the next piece of history. And first off, we're gonna now go to 1982, which was 40 years ago today. So on this date, 40 years ago today, the 230th issue of Life with Archie from Archie Comics went on sale on this date in 1982, 40 years ago today. Cover price was 60 cents, 32 pages. Featuring four Archie stories and a Charlie story. So on this date, 40 years ago today, the 230th issue of Life with Archie went on sale on this date. And what I shall say is this: 1982 is just so nice that we're gonna hit it twice. As on this date, also in this particular case, it's not so nice because there was a passing. So on this date in 1982, at the age of 64, actor and comedian Hans Conried passed away at the age of 64. He was known for providing the voices of Walt Disney's George Darling and Captain Hook and Peter Pan, Sidney Whiplash and Jay Ward's Dudley Do-Right cartoons, Professor Waldo Wigglesworth in Ward's Hooper cartoon. Excuse me one more time, sorry. Be right back. Oh, it looked like it looked like for a sec we had 3 people in here. But as we're coming to an end, it's a little late. All right. So, anyways, as I was saying, Hans Conried also was also the host of Ward's Fractured Flickers, and also provided the voice of Professor Kropotkin on the radio and film version of My Friend Irma. So, on this date, 40 years ago today, Hans Conried would pass away at the age of 64. And of course, we just went over some of his. So we have one more piece of niche news here, or niche history to go through. As always, guys, of course, I do appreciate any and all likes and shares. Even if you didn't get a chance to see any of the stories tonight, I do keep the streams up, so you can go ahead and go back and look over stories that we covered already. So, with that being said, we have one more piece of niche history to look at here, and that's going back just 15 years ago today, 2007. As on this date in 2007, the anime's Koe Suru Tenchi Angelique Kagayaki no Ashita, which, as I understand it, the translation there is Beautiful Angel Angelique, and Shattered Angels, both premiered on this date in 2017. So on this date, Beautiful Angel Angelique and Shattered Angels premiered on this date in 2017. So with that, guys, I thank you for being here tonight. I hope you guys enjoyed the content. I hope to see everybody back here tomorrow night. And also don't forget about Friday as well. So until then, bye.